the budget deal working its way through Congress. And I'm very, very pleased to have on the line with us Mark Pocan, congressman from Wisconsin's 2nd District. His website, pocan.house.gov. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here.
Great to have you with us. So what's going on there?
Well, in literally minutes, and I mean minutes, within the hour, we'll be voting on part of the budget bill for the end. We'll be voting on the tax extender portion, which is literally hundreds of billions of dollars of unpaid for tax expenditures, largely benefiting corporations, not individuals, that will take away our ability to have revenue to do things for the public good in the future. That's a part of the package. And then the other part of the package that should happen tomorrow is the omnibus spending bill that we are all still having strong debates about in Congress.
Now, reading this, just reading the New York Times this morning, I sort of got the sense that on these roughly $600 billion in tax breaks, that it was sort of evenly split between the favorites of the Republicans, let's give tax breaks to the fossil fuel industry, and those favored by Democrats, let's give tax breaks to the solar industry. Excuse me. Do I have that wrong?
Yeah, because the dollars are clearly on the Republican side. For example, things like accelerated depreciation. I mean, that alone, I believe, is a couple $100 billion. Those are large dollars. The dollars that go into the programs that we care about, like solar and wind, are much smaller, extremely significant, important to keep those industries going, but not as robust. Now, there are some tax extenders that are good that go around issues that we care about, things like the American Opportunity Tax Credit and the Earned Income Tax Credit. But by and large, these are unfunded tax expenditures. And around here, we keep saying you have to find the money to pay for something. Well, when it comes to this, we don't find any of the money. And all that means is in the future, we're not going to have money for things like education, healthcare, and other services that help real people.
Yeah, that's pretty grim. Accelerated depreciation, for people who don't know what you're talking about here, is when a company buys a piece of equipment, whether it's a copy machine or whether it's a $30 million piece of equipment for a factory, the lifespan of that piece of equipment is estimated. There are tables for this. Say this $30 million piece of equipment is expected to last 20 years, and so every year you can deduct 1/20th of the cost of that from your taxes as depreciation. You can take that as essentially a loss. And accelerated depreciation means instead it's over 20 years, you can do it over 6 or 8 years. Do I have that right?
Well, yeah, and depending on what the total now exemption goes way up, you could depreciate things in a single year that would have been multiple years, depending on the total expenditure. But here's the real problem, and I've been a small business owner for 28 years. If this is done to incentivize, and originally was put in claiming that this would help stimulate the economy, you do it at the beginning of a year. When you do it at the end of a year, that's not incentivizing anything. That's just rewarding businesses who've already bought things that they would have bought anyway because there wasn't that incentive there. But to do this, over halfway into December is not an incentive for anything. It's just really a giveaway that's not funded. And, again, we could have the debates if this were a January 1st argument about having it in place for the coming year, but doing it literally over 11 and a half months into the year doesn't face any of the arguments that you could argue why you'd put it in place.
Some of the other things that are rather odious in this, over the Center for American Progress's blog, Think Progress, they've got the good, the bad, and the crazy, or the curious or whatever. And among the bads, they talk about ending the ban on exporting American crude oil. That's principally just going to help domestic American oil producers like ExxonMobil and Koch Industries, right?
Exactly, and that's in the omnibus bill, which is what makes it hard. So even though we fought back on a lot of bad riders and our leadership deserved credit for fighting back on a lot of other things that could have happened, that's a big one because, a couple things. One, it's a total giveaway for the oil companies and Koch Industries and those type of folks to be able to export their oil overseas, and it's going to hurt some of the people who work in the refineries here because now those jobs, that'll all be done overseas rather than here. But the real issue I think that's out there is, often the Republicans don't give us a majority of votes to pass that portion because it's broken into two pieces, the omnibus and the tax extender. And when gas prices go up, and they will go up, what we're afraid is, people will go and say, "Oh, look what the Democrats did to you. The president signed this bill into law, and now your gas prices went up because we're exporting oil." And there's just bad after bad after bad from that one provision. And Paul Ryan said he had to put it into the omnibus in order to get Republican votes. But in the end, if he only gets a third of the votes to pass this from the Republican Party, then why did we have to take that terrible poison pill?
Right. Yeah. Well, because obviously somebody paid off Paul Ryan, among others.
Well, yeah, and the fact that the president said he would sign this, doesn't bode well either, because he's essentially advocating for that position. So we're having a strong internal debate in our caucus about what you do on that omnibus bill, because again, getting rid of the sequester, getting some additional dollars for programs we value that help real people is important. But then if the pill you have to swallow is this kind of legislation that would allow oil to be exported, and we're not helping the people of Puerto Rico and other things that we had asked to have happen, and we're delivering the majority of votes, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Now, I understand Section 127 of one of these two bills will prohibit the IRS from acting next year to formalize rules that they've proposed to basically take a serious look at these 501c4, quote, social welfare nonprofits that are actually shills for mostly right-wing billionaires. Do I have that right?
Yes. In fact, so I used to be on Oversight and Government Reform Committee when we started the whole investigation into the IRS, and they claimed, oh, you're only going after conservative groups. It quickly came out that, no, they went after progressive groups and conservative groups, anyone who could be violating the law by stretching that definition. But by saying for 1 year, Tom, what's 1 year from now? Oh, that's right, the election. We're going to make sure that we're not going to investigate any of these outside groups until after the elections for Congress and for president. Again, it's just showing how cynical the Republicans are to have put that provision in there. Again, that just kind of, in many ways, I think, makes Citizens United even stronger, and those kind of decisions even stronger, by us not being able to have any enforcement.
By stronger, you mean more toxic?
Yeah, exactly. And, there's also another provision that, had we wanted to get disclosure, which the court still allowed us under Citizens United, there's a provision that says they're not allowed to have any funding to do that. So now we can't get extra disclosure out of those rules. Not to say that it would have happened in this Congress, but it could have happened from this president in this White House trying to move that forward. Now they're not allowed to. That's another provision in the omnibus.
We're talking with Congressman Mark Pocan. You can tweet him at Mark, M-A-R-K, Pocan, P-O-C-A-N, or at Rep. Mark Pocan, either one. His website, pocan.house.gov. Congressman, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, CISA. We have just a few seconds, about a little less than a minute before the break here. Quick summary of that.
Yeah, there's some provisions in here, again, on that are going to make it rolling back some of the protections I think we would like to have for the public, so we're still concerned around that. So the difficulty that I think we're going to have, especially at progressives, around the omnibus is, we have fixed some of the dollars that were lost during the sequester. There are some important programs that will see additional dollars, but they've got these other terrible provisions. And if we are going to offer a majority of votes, I think a lot of us feel we should have got more things into that bill. And it's just going to be a difficult next 24 hours as we try to figure it out and how many votes the Republicans are putting in.
Yeah, and this kind of, you're not saying this, but I will. This kind of proves that elections have consequences, and when you only have less than a 20% turnout in the Democratic Party in the last election, you end up with a bunch of Republicans running the House and the Senate, and you get this kind of crappy legislation. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us. I know you may have to leave for a vote, but if you could stick around, we'll be right back.
No, I can stick around.
Okay, great. Congressman Pocan, we'll be right back in just a minute. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.